You wake up and check your phone. Somewhere in a windowless building you own, 100,000 machines are humming through the night, and you didn't have to lift a finger. No customers walk through a door. No planes land on a runway. Just racks of servers blinking quietly in the dark, working for you while you sleep. You own a data center. The building has no sign out front. No name, no logo, nothing to suggest that some of the biggest companies on Earth are paying you, right now, to keep their entire digital existence running inside your walls. Every email sent, every show streamed, every AI request typed into a chatbot somewhere in the world might be passing through a server that sits on your floor. You don't sell anything you can see. You sell space, power, and silence. And here's the naive theory, the one that feels obvious the moment you picture it. The internet never stops growing, so the demand for servers never stops growing either. You just build the building, plug it in, and rent out the racks. No competition shows up next door. You just sit back and collect rent from the cloud itself. That is the dream, and it's not entirely wrong. The problem is what happens between the dream and the invoice. Here's the reality check, in one sentence. What it costs to build this thing, what it costs to keep it breathing every single hour, and what happens the moment one system fails at 3 in the morning. Because a data center doesn't actually sell computing power. A data center sells trust. It sells the promise that the lights will never go out, that the servers will never overheat, and that a company's entire business will still be alive tomorrow morning. That's the paradigm shift. You're not renting shelf space. You're selling uptime, measured down to the minute, and every minute you fail to deliver it costs you real money. Keep that in mind, because everything that follows comes back to that one guarantee. So how do you actually get in? There's a ladder here, and it's steeper than most people expect. At the bottom, you can lease a single rack inside someone else's colocation facility for around $2,000 a month, which gets you power, cooling, and a locked cage, but you own none of the building. One rung up, you can build a small edge data center, the kind that sits near a city to reduce latency, and that runs you somewhere between $5 and $15 million, depending on size and power capacity. Above that sits a true enterprise-scale facility, 10 to 20 megawatts of power, custom built for a handful of major tenants, and that starts around $100 million. And at the very top of the ladder sits the hyperscale data center, the kind built for Amazon, Google, or Microsoft, spanning hundreds of thousands of square feet with its own dedicated power substation. Those routinely cost over $1 billion to build. One building, $1 billion. That's roughly the cost of an entire NFL stadium, except this one has no fans, no games, and no roof that opens. So what does that $1 billion actually buy you? If you're leasing space to tenants, your income comes from long-term contracts, often 5 to 15 years, where companies pay a fixed monthly rate per kilowatt of power they reserve, whether they use it or not. That can add up to tens of millions a year on a large facility. But if this is a private data center built for your own company, there's no rent check at all. The payoff isn't cash flow, it's control. You're no longer at the mercy of a cloud provider's price hikes or downtime. That's leverage, not income. Either way, here's your bridge into the harder truth. Whatever this building gives you, it takes far more from you every single day just to stay switched on. Before a single customer signs a single contract, this building costs you around $40,000 a day just to exist. Power alone can run $15,000 to $25,000 a day for a mid-sized facility because servers generate enormous heat, and cooling that heat can burn as much electricity as running the servers themselves. Backup diesel generators need fuel, maintenance, and testing, whether they ever fire up or not. Specialized technicians, the kind who can rebuild a failed cooling system at 2 in the morning, don't come cheap. Insurance on a facility holding other companies' entire digital infrastructure is enormous, because if you go down, your tenants go down with you. And it doesn't matter if the racks sit half empty. The cooling still runs, the generator's still idle. The power bill doesn't care how many customers showed up today. Here's the trapdoor almost nobody outside the industry knows about. When you build a hyperscale facility, you sign a power purchase agreement with the utility company, locking in massive electricity capacity for years in advance. Many of these contracts include a take-or-pay clause, meaning you pay for that reserve power whether you use it or not. Build a building too big for the tenants you actually land, and you're stuck paying full price for electricity that's just cooling an empty room. It exists to protect the utility, which had to build new infrastructure just to serve you, and it leaves you holding the bag if your leasing assumptions were wrong. So remember that naive theory from the beginning, the one where you just plug in the servers and watch the rent roll in? Here's what actually pays the bills. The real profit in this industry rarely comes from the server rent itself. It comes from interconnection. Every time two companies inside your building want to plug directly into each other, bypassing the public internet for speed and security, you charge a fee for that single cable, sometimes hundreds of dollars a month per connection. Multiply that by thousands of cross-connects inside one building, and you've built a private toll road nobody else can replicate. Because once a company's cables are physically wired into your walls, ripping them out and moving to a competitor is enormously expensive and disruptive. That's the monopoly. It isn't the servers, it's the wiring. Now for the failure. In March of 2021, a data center in Strasbourg, France, run by the cloud provider OVHcloud, caught fire inside one of its buildings, reportedly starting near an uninterruptible power supply unit. The fire spread fast enough that firefighters couldn't save the building. Thousands of customers, including government agencies and small businesses across Europe, lost data permanently because backups were sometimes stored in the very same facility that burned. The company's own losses were estimated at over $100 million, not counting the lawsuits and the trust that never fully came back. Now walk the math with me. In an optimistic year, your hyperscale facility runs at 95% leased capacity, your power costs stay stable, and you collect close to $80 million in annual revenue against fixed costs of around $50 million. That leaves you $30 million in profit. Now change one variable. Leasing demand softens, occupancy drops to 60% because two anchor tenants delay their expansion, and energy prices spike 15% that same year. Your revenue falls to $50 million, but your fixed costs barely move because the cooling and the generators don't care how many tenants showed up. Now you're at a loss of $5 million. The difference between those 2 years isn't a rounding error. It's a $35 million swing on the exact same building, the same racks, the same square footage. A data center isn't a warehouse full of computers. It's a machine built entirely to sell a single invisible promise that nothing will ever go dark. And maybe that's the part of this that actually reaches you, wherever you're sitting right now. You already run on that same promise every day, just at a smaller scale. You trust your phone will charge, your bank account will be there tomorrow, your job won't disappear overnight. Somewhere behind a locked door in an unmarked building, someone is paying an enormous, relentless price just to keep that same kind of quiet trust alive for millions of people who will never once think to thank them for it.